What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing today? My name is Alex Alcazaz, and I'm also known as the Bear of Texas, also known as the Texas Gaming Bear. Well, welcome to another one of my game discussing videos. I believe that's my third one now. And I gotta tell you, first off, right off the bat, running this video game channel, well, it's been fun, but it's been extremely difficult. I know that some of you have been seeing some of my walkthroughs, and I fully understand that the thumbnails that I'm using for my walkthroughs are honestly not the best, specifically for the videos that I upload for each mission or level of the games that I am playing. I know that obviously I'm not putting in any effort in the thumbnails because I'm just using a snapshot that YouTube apparently finds best for me. I'm not gonna lie, even though I'm an experienced podcaster, an experienced YouTuber, I'm not extremely talented with the use of thumbnails. Now, if you were looking at the thumbnails of my association football podcast, Into the Net FC, which is also on YouTube, some would say it's a different story. I seem to be talented, but I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to making thumbnails for my videos, I'm not very, very good at it, especially with a video game aspect, but look, I'm trying my best. Sometimes I feel like maybe a snapshot or a picture from the gameplay is probably the best way to go, but obviously I'm not quite getting the views that I desire, but it takes time. So in this video, clearly, I want to talk about a game that really is one of the most important games, not only in my childhood, not only in my teenage part of my life or my adulthood, but honestly, this is one of the greatest games of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Max Payne. There it is right there, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another part of my collection of sealed copies. This is an original Max Payne sealed copy for the PlayStation 2. This is a sealed copy. This is definitely one that must have come out when the game came out in 2001. Honestly, if you look at the artwork for this game, it is incredible. Max Payne holding the 9mm Beretta, looking to the side like that. Of course, there's the yellow police tape, which they use at crime scenes. Man, look at that. This thing is so cool. And I like how when I buy these games at these particular places, I love how it has the plastic protection all over it. Not every single sealed game I have has that, but for the most part, most of them do. Of course, I like how it says sealed. I mean, that's not what convinced me that it's sealed. I mean, you got to look at, you look at this right here. You look at the plastic that's on the game itself. You always look at the way it's specifically like this to make sure that it's real. I mean, I've been warned that a lot of times games can be easily resealed. Now, there's ways to spot it, and I've done the research, but I know for a fact that this is in fact a sealed copy. As a matter of fact, I put a YouTube short of this, and somebody decided to comment saying, "Who cares? Big deal. This was probably resealed by the original owner." Okay, if you don't like my videos or my YouTube shorts of me posting my collection of video games, that's fine. But here's the deal. If you're going to be a dick about it, well, then here's the deal. I don't want to hear it. All right? Seriously. Grow the hell up. Seriously. Not saying that whatever you say offends me, but here's the deal. If you're going to be so negative about it, then, don't bother commenting. Seriously. We don't need negativity. I don't need negativity. I mean, I deal with enough negativity in my life. I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression. I work a day job where I work 40 to 50 hours a week, okay? I work in the restaurant business while trying to work 5 podcasts along with several YouTube channels. I deal with enough drama and negativity and anxiety and depression enough as it is. I deal with enough negativity as it is. So look, I'm trying to post stuff like that to stay positive, okay? I'm trying to keep myself in a positive state, all right? Now, you have the right to post whatever you want. You have the right to your opinion, but here's the deal. If you're going to be a dick about it, well, here's the deal. I'm not interested. I want to get that out of the way. All right? We got to stay positive. I mean, come on. So, anyway, had to go on that rant. I apologize, but, in my time as a YouTuber, I've dealt with more than my fair share of bullies, of, people, laughing at me, hey, you only got 10 views and all that. Like I said, a lot of people, they just need to grow the F up. I've been trying to working on getting the use of cuss words down, especially ever since I made a big change to my life over a year ago. I've really been trying to keep the foul language down, but it's still a bit of a struggle. So when I played Max Payne for the first time, well, believe it or not, when I got this game, I didn't buy it. Well, this one I bought, but the one I had when I was a kid, I didn't buy it. Believe it or not, it was a gift from my mom when I turned 12 years old. My parents were pretty strict about me playing games that were rated M, especially when I was 12. No matter how many times I would beg, plead, whine, kick, scream, throw a fit about it, my parents would not budge. At least most of the time. I think it depended on what game it was. When it was Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, Vice City, all that, well, good luck to me, right? But eventually I pushed my parents far enough to get me the game. When it comes to San Andreas, I had to actually buy it from a friend, and I had to keep that a secret from my parents. But much to my surprise, the fact that my mom actually bought me Max Payne when I was 12 years old, well, what really blows me away about the situation is because when she bought it, I had never ever played it before. I had never ever played Max Payne. At that point, Max Payne had been out for nearly over 4 years. I mean, again, my birthday's in January, so this was in 2005 when I got the game. It was in January of 2005. So at that point, Max Payne had been out for over 4 years. It came out originally in 2001, and I think, if I'm correct, it was originally only on the PC, but a couple months later, I believe they decided that they were going to put it out for the, I believe it was for the original Xbox, if I'm correct. Now, I looked at the history. Now, the game came out, well, it originally came out in July of 2001. And it was, of course, ported, basically, at first it was on Windows. It was released for Windows by Gathering of Developers. And then later, Rockstar Games, as a subsidiary in Canada, released it on the PlayStation 2 and by Neo Software through the Xbox. And this was in December of 2001. So, according to research, so, as we know, Rockstar Canada, as I said, is, it's one of the video game developers, and it's a studio of Rockstar Games, which, Rockstar Games is based I'm not sure exactly where Rockstar Games itself is based out of, but Rockstar Toronto is actually based in the Toronto, Ontario, Canada area. Rockstar Games is actually based in New York City. So, how Rockstar Games has, of course, they have Rockstar Ontario, and I'm sure they have a lot of other studios. I mean, just like Ubisoft has one in Shanghai, in Montreal, and in France. Well, obviously in France. I mean, Ubisoft is a French company, but much like Ubisoft having these particular studios all over the world, obviously Rockstar Games is the same way. I mean, when you grow up to be one of the best companies related to video games, I mean, that's usually how it goes. You grow up and you expand. So, the game was actually developed by Remedy and then published by Rockstar Games, so just to get it right. So, and a lot of times people get confused about it. I mean, there's a developer and there's a publisher, and if I'm correct, the publisher and developer, they work together and they both get their fair share of credit. I would imagine that's how it works. So, to give a little history, and much to my surprise, there was actually a version of the game for the Game Boy Advance. Max Payne on the Game Boy Advance? At 32 years of age, I'm 32 years old, I never would have, honestly, at this age, as an adult, I never really, honestly, would have anticipated the idea of Max Payne being on the Game Boy Advance. I mean, I wouldn't even expect, now if it was on the Game Boy Color, I would actually think that's got to be impossible. I mean, you can't really play a first-person shooter on the Game Boy Color, can you? I mean, not that I know of. I never played a first-person shooter on the Game Boy Color. Well, speaking of the Game Boy Color, the one I had, it's a shame what became of it. It really is. Really is. So Max Payne, the original Max Payne, is basically most of my history with it. I did briefly play the second one. I never played Max Payne 3, and quite frankly, I never had an interest in Max Payne 3. Why? I don't know. Probably because I've kind of basically moved on. I feel like Max Payne 1 and 2 were pretty much the story, and that was it. Now, again, I only briefly played Max Payne 2, so I know very little to absolutely nothing about it. Now, speaking of Max Payne, it was actually eventually made available for the Xbox 360 as part of the Xbox Originals program in 2009, and then in 2012, it came out on the PlayStation 3 and then part of the PS2 Classic, and then in 2016, the original Max Payne was available for the PlayStation 4. I mean, if you see my walkthrough on this channel, that's the original Max Payne walkthrough, and I played it on the PlayStation 4. Now, about 4 years ago, Max Payne, the original one, came out on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series basically part of the respective backward compatibility and emulation features. So Max Payne really has seen its time go through and through different generations and made available through different consoles. As a matter of fact, I believe, well, according to some further research, I read that originally they were planning to release it on the Sega, but apparently that did not happen. Now, I feel like at that point in 2001, Sega, well, not the Sega, I should say the Dreamcast. Yeah. So a Dreamcast version was actually planned, but it was canceled because of the discontinuation of the console in 2001. Yeah, at that point, the N64, the original PlayStation, the Dreamcast, I mean, all those consoles you saw in the 90s, I mean, at that point, they were basically a thing of the past. So in 2001, we were talking about the PS2, the Xbox, the GameCube. I believe the original Xbox did come out in 2001 as well. Now, again, obviously it came out in 2001, because remember, this game, Max Payne, came out on the Xbox, on the Neo software in December of 2001. I believe it was the GameCube that probably came out in 2002, if I'm correct. I don't think both systems came out in the same year. They might have come in the same year. I'm not sure. I don't remember when the GameCube came out, but it was around the same time. So it was definitely between the years 2000 and 2002. So if I'm correct, the GameCube probably, I believe, came out in 2002. If not 2002, it was definitely 2001. But anyway, so the gameplay for Max Payne, I felt, was pretty complex, but that's kind of what made the game very, very unique for me personally. When the gameplay is rather unique and complex, it can be pretty frustrating, but at the same time, it makes you appreciate the game even more. The game, as we know, is about a New York City homicide detective by the name of Max Payne that at the beginning of the game, he's living a happy life. He comes home and finds his baby infant daughter and wife murdered by some crazy drug addicts that were under the influence of a drug called Valkyr. Of course, Valkyr is all part of the game's story. Basically, like, after that, you would think that Max Payne would lose his sanity after losing his wife and his infant daughter, but actually, no. Max Payne basically goes from working for the NYPD, he transfers to the DEA because of this whole drug thing. He is going to basically take it upon himself to get to the bottom of this whole thing. I mean, I like how how it says, New York, fugitive undercover cop, nothing to lose. I mean, Max Payne at this point is a man with nothing to lose. So obviously he is willing to take the most dangerous mission of not particularly his career, but the most dangerous mission in his life. So Max Payne has lost his family, so at this point he doesn't care. He doesn't care what happens to him because, again, he's a man with nothing left to lose. So basically the whole plot of the story is about Max Payne solving the murder of his family. And as his investigation goes deeper and deeper and deeper about the mysterious drug known as Valkyr, basically the whole thing becomes one hell of a complex conspiracy which involves a major pharmaceutical company, mafia, organized society, and the United States military. You can tell that I'm very, very excited by doing this episode. As a matter of fact, I used to have a video game podcast where I would kind of do things like this. But I would rush and just overwhelm myself and just not do things correctly. It made things very, very difficult. But there's a lot of and one thing I love about this game is, you notice in the cutscenes how you see these comic book like cutscenes in this game. Then you hear Max Payne talking. I loved it. The comic book like cutscenes in this game were fantastic. Now, there were two particular things that I absolutely hated about this game. And I think you could take a wild guess as to what that might be. But I'm going to tell you anyway. The two things about this game that I hated the most were the two nightmare missions. Number one, because they were a pain in the ass. They were really a pain in the butt. Number two, there was one of them where you hear Max's daughter crying in the background. That actually made it very, very tough for me. See, at the beginning of the game, when Max finds his daughter dead, the crib is like flipped to its side. I think his infant daughter is basically under the blanket. I think, and that she's obviously, if I remember correctly, there's 3 bullet holes. There's a large puddle of blood, and I think her feet are sticking out of the blanket as well. You hear Max Payne crying, saying, "No, no, God, please, God, no." Man, a father seeing a 6-month-old daughter brutally murdered like that. Like I said, 3 bullet holes, her feet sticking out of the blanket, and a large puddle of blood. That's pretty graphic. I mean, that's another thing about this game that would really astonish me that my parents allowed me to play it. But, based on how intense and gruesome the story and the game is, it makes sense as to why or how Max Payne's wife and daughter were killed. I mean, it's difficult, but still, going back to that one nightmare mission, when you hear Max Payne's daughter crying in the background, man, I'm not gonna lie, it still makes me tear up, I will say. Like, when I played the walkthrough, I mean, it made me tear up hearing his daughter crying in the background. And then I think you hear his wife screaming as well. Man, it was tough. It was really tough. And not only that, but, in his daughter's bedroom, I mean, there's that little music playing. Like, how on a baby's crib, there's always this thing that plays a little music for the baby to help the baby go to sleep. Like, you would hear, like, the crib music. So, I mean, I don't know what they call that. I don't know what they call that kind of thing. Hold on, I'm actually... I think it's like it's a music box or something like that. Yeah, it was one of the, it's a music box for babies that, you put over the crib. And again, it plays music to help the baby go to sleep. And you hear the music box, and that makes the whole thing even more difficult. So, but nonetheless, the missions or / levels are fun, especially when you're in that pharmaceutical building around the end of the game, when you're at the manor of the crime boss in which Max Payne is pursuing, the Punchinello crime family. And of course, what was funny? The boss of the Punchinello crime family, his name is Jack Lapino. I've done my research on organized crime. I figure, if it's called if his name is Jack Lapino, then why is it called the Punchinello crime family? Well, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons as to why that is, but could it be that Jack Lapino is not the original boss of the family? Perhaps he was appointed when the previous boss was no longer fit to be the boss, or when the other one died. I don't know. But there's a lot of things about it that I felt were really dumbfounding, and it really caught my attention in a positive way. It's unfortunate that Max Payne 2, the fall of Max Payne, I did briefly play. Like I said, I did rent it, but I didn't get far. That one was also developed by Remedy and published by Rockstar, and that one came out in October of 2003. And again, Max Payne 3, which was developed solely by Rockstar, was released in May of 2012, which, again, I did not play, and I honestly have no interest in it. Now, probably should have mentioned this earlier, that in 2008, there was actually a film, but it was sort of an adaptation of the first game. They made a Max Payne film, and I'm not gonna lie, okay, it's not the worst film I've ever seen, but I honestly did not like it. I didn't like the Max Payne film. Now, Mark Wahlberg actually starred in that film. He played Max Payne. Now, again, the film is not horrible. Well, okay, yeah, it's not horrible, but I just honestly didn't like it that much. I saw it when it first came out, and then I saw it again when it came out, when it obviously was released on DVD. I mean, we're talking 2008, 2009. I mean, DVDs were still a thing at the time. But I never had I never really thought that the film lived up to expectations. Now, the film made money. It made $86 million out of a $35 million budget. So the film made money, so I can't say that it was a failure. Now, the film followed the game to an extent. There was probably a lot of things that they didn't get right, or didn't follow it exactly like the game goes, but for the most part, the film does kind of follow the game. Although I think in the movie, well, it says that Jack Lapino is a former Marine. So I think in the film, I'm not sure if Jack Lapino is a crime boss. Or maybe I'm getting it mixed up. I mean, it's been too long since I've seen the film. And right now, I really honestly do want to see it, but it says like right here in the film, Jack Lapino is a former gunnery sergeant in the United States Marine Corps who became one of the earliest test subjects for Valkyr. But he subsequently started trafficking Valkyr for profit. Now, I don't remember if in the film, I mean, there was a crime boss, just like in the game. But again, I'm sure there was definitely differences in the film than from the games. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, so there's a lot about it that I don't remember. I feel like now I should definitely take the chance to watch the films. If it's on Netflix or on Hulu anytime soon, and I have the time, I'll definitely take a look. Man, so like that. So, and like I said, the plot itself is really good. You know, and there's actually two characters in that game. I remember there's two assassins in the game called the Finito brothers. And I mentioned how there's the graphic cutscenes that they're like basically they're cutscenes they use for narration, and it's part of the neo noir genre. I mean, you got to keep in mind, Max Payne, the genre of it is very much neo noir. I mean, it's a third person shooter game, but it really honestly executes a neo noir type of storytelling. So the gunplay and everything like that, the third person shooter makes it cool, but also the use of storytelling in the video game, the noir style of storytelling is very good. I mean, this game sold over 4 million copies, or units, whichever you want to say. Over 4 million units of this game. Over 4 million units were sold. I mean, this is one of the originals. I mean, again, this one is sealed. This one is sealed. And I know for a fact, it's factory sealed. So, anyway, so losing train of thought, but you know, the game won so many awards, you know, basically, and not only that, I mean, Max Payne is considered to be one of the greatest games ever made. But you know, going back to the graphic novels, basically that are used as cutscenes for the narration. I mean, it was very, very crucial to the neo-noir genre of the game. So, and of course, in one of them, you see the Finito brothers, the two assassins I was talking about, and one of them says, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's the pain in the butt." And the other one says, "Pain to the max." So you have two assassins working for the Punchinello crime family. And of course, they're twins. I mean, obviously they're twins. And I love, you know, and the voice actor for that one really kind of utilized this New York accent, but I can't do it. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's the pain in the butt." I think it was in the level playing it Bogart, or the mission playing it with Bogart. I don't know if was it a mission or if it was a chapter? I mean, I remember there was a mission or a thing. It was called Playing It Bogart. It was actually it was not one of the chapters. It was one of the missions, Playing It Bogart, and that's pretty much Max Payne. And I would literally look it up by what does it mean, Playing It Bogart in Max Payne's case. So you know what? I know I already have it right here. So you know what? For Max Payne, they have a particularly good explanation for it. Max Payne's explanation for Playing It Bogart is that he is conducting his investigation with extreme confidence, and of course, a serious lack of fear. So Playing It Bogart is Max Payne investigating his case with full confidence and zero fear. Again, he's a man with nothing to lose. Man. So, basically, okay, yeah, actually, Jack Lapino is actually he's the underboss of the Punchinello crime family, yeah. It's Jack Lapino, so I must have gotten something a little bit mixed up about it. But you know what? Interestingly enough, I mean, in this game, now, okay, I don't know exactly who was the main boss of this one, but you know, to take a look at the characters, well, of course, you know, this one over here, there's Mona Sachs, so, well, okay, no, Angelo Punchinello is the boss. Okay, it's Angelo Punchinello. Okay, so you know what? Okay, now I definitely fucked up. So, like I said earlier about how is Jack Lapino how is it called the Punchinello crime family if Jack Lapino is the boss? See, I got that wrong. Jack Lapino is not the boss of the family. Angelo Punchinello is the boss of the crime family that Max Payne is dealing with. And interestingly enough, I think Max Payne he forms an alliance with a Russian mobster in this one. So, because this Russian mobster is actually at war with the Punchinello family. So, and of course, there's a character by the name of Vinny Cogniti, who's Jack Lapino's right hand. Lapino is actually the underboss. So he's the underboss of the Punchinello crime family, and Angelo Punchinello is the head. So, okay, so I'm glad I caught that. So I apologize for that earlier mistake. Obviously, I didn't have all my notes, so obviously I didn't research that part, but a lot of the characters in this one are just incredible. And Mona Sachs, as we know, she's a contract assassin. She's actually Angelo Punchinello's sister-in-law, so I should say Dawn instead of boss. So the Dawn of the Punchinello family is Angelo, and Mona Sachs is his sister-in-law, so which means Angelo is obviously married to Mona Sachs' sister, And Mona Sachs, as I said, she is Lisa Punchinello's twin sister. So Lisa Punchinello is Angelo's wife, and Mona is Lisa's twin sister. And she basically has a grudge against Angelo because Angelo is an abusive husband towards Lisa, and because of all the horrible things Angelo has done to her, has done to Lisa, Mona obviously wants to kill him. So, man, but eventually Angelo Punchinello is killed, and Mona Sachs actually sides with Nicole Horn, who's actually the head of the pharmaceutical company that is heavily involved with with Valkyr. I mean, you learn eventually that Angelo Punchinello was nearly a puppet in this whole thing, which was really mind-boggling. I mean, a Dawn being used as a puppet, man. So I think eventually that's where he learns. Eventually, after the second nightmare. Now, the two nightmares that Max Payne has is because he gets drugged with Valkyr. He suffers an overdose, and after the second nightmare, he goes to a particular old steel foundry, and that's where he finds out that he finds a hidden military research complex underground. And he discovers that Valkyr is the result of the, quote, Valhalla Project, which was a Gulf War-era military experiment to improve soldiers and their stamina and morale through chemical enhancements. So it was obviously to kind of help strengthen the soldiers, but the project was halted because of the poor results. And Nicole Horn, who is the head of the pharmaceutical company, Acer, which I hope I'm saying it correctly. I don't even know how to say it, or Acer, I should say. Acer, the pharmaceutical company in the video game. I mean, Nicole Horn is the head. So, and then you learn as to why Max Payne's wife was killed, because Max Payne's wife, Michelle, had actually found out about Acer's illegal experiments, and Horn ordered her killed in order to silence her. So, man. So, obviously, as we know, Max Payne's best friend at the beginning, his friend Alex, is actually murdered, and Max Payne was set up. I mean, if you know the game, then you know how during the time, the NYPD is pursuing Max Payne. I mean, I'll never forget, at the beginning of the game, in the subway, when I think that there's that bank robbery, that was also, I think, also to help frame Max Payne. You know, Max Payne answers a phone, and then he's basically saying to the phone, "We now come to you live from the crime scene," and then the police chief, or the deputy chief, says, "Who the hell is this?" And he says, "Right back at you." And then the chief says, "This is Deputy Chief Jim Bravura of the NYPD. You are to cease your criminal activities and surrender immediately." And then Max Payne just basically starts to troll him. Seriously, he starts to troll him. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I probably missed, but, again, I'm trying to keep this going, as quick as I can, but, man, but you just learn so much. I mean, honestly, like, eventually Max actually storms Angelo Punchinello's manor. He confronts the Don himself, but discovers that Angelo Punchinello is only a puppet in this whole conspiracy. So, man. So Punchinello was only a puppet. So the crime family supposedly had an alliance with Acer, the pharmaceutical company, but it turns out that Nicole Horn, the head of Acer, was merely using Don Punchinello. The Punchinello crime family supposedly was the family that was actually heavily trafficking this drug. So Max Payne originally thought that the Punchinello crime family was responsible for the distribution of Valkyr, which they were in a sense, but it's the Acer pharmaceutical company that basically had the Punchinello crime family distribute the drugs. So, man. So again, the whole thing just goes from, you learn that, this involves a crime family, and then a pharmaceutical company, a secret society, and then the U.S. military was apparently involved in this. So, man, oh man. And then basically, I think, well, eventually Max Payne, so not only did he form an alliance with a Russian mobster, but that secret society I was talking about, they're known as the Inner Circle, and apparently they've been observing Max Payne. So their leader reveals that Horn was once a member, and the leader of the Inner Circle, his name is Alfred Woden. Well, he actually asks Max Payne to kill Nicole Horn in exchange for dealing with the charges against him. So Alfred makes Max a deal. If you get rid of Nicole Horn, we will help you deal with the charges against you. Which eventually did happen. Again, at the end of the game, once you kill Nicole Horn, you cause that helicopter crash. I mean, that final fight was very, very difficult. But so at the end of the game, when you're in that skyscraper, which I would imagine is the headquarters for Acer. So after you defeat Nicole Horn, the NYPD storms the building. Max Payne surrenders and he's arrested. And as he's being taken outside, he notices Woden among the crowd that's basically watching it, and he smiles, knowing that Woden will in fact ensure his protection. So Max Payne just really honestly goes through a lot of drama in this one. I mean, he goes on quite a journey, but for me, going through all the missions and everything, I mean, it was difficult, very, very difficult. Especially when I replayed it about almost 3 years ago. Well, yeah, about 3 years ago when I did my Max Payne walkthrough, and I re-uploaded it. But I should let y'all know that the gameplay was from a couple years ago. It was originally on my regular YouTube channel, which got destroyed. So I salvaged the content and re-uploaded it. So for me, well, my journey with Max Payne was difficult, but it was quite an experience, quite an experiment, honestly, and it was amazing. And from what I understand, a remake is supposed to come out, and as far as I'm concerned, well, it was actually about 3 years ago that it was announced that Remedy was developing a remake of Max Payne 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox X, and Rockstar would be publishing it. So in my case, if I'm to have any chance of playing the remaster, first things first, I gotta get a PlayStation 5. I mean, I gotta get a PlayStation 5 in order to play Grand Theft Auto 6, which apparently has been delayed until next year. But, you know, one step at a time. But I feel like Max Payne, this game is truly one of the greatest games ever made. It's unique. It's one of a kind. I mean, I really like this. You know, the pictures back here, you know, from the gameplay, really amazing. Really amazing indeed. And, you know, a lot of the bullet dodging and everything like that, it's obvious that it was influenced and encouraged, you know, by the Matrix. So I got a little bit distracted with this thing right here, so I don't even know what this thing is on the side, but, man, this thing is really, really well protected. I mean, it's gotta be. Look at that. Final pick. Final look. So, that's pretty much it. So, just to wrap it up, Max Payne is a good game. My journey with it originally when I was 12 was quite an experience. A lot of times it was very, very frustrating, but eventually I did beat the game and it was worth it. It was worth all the effort. And then when I replayed it a couple years ago, I felt like I really had to do it. And, well, I did. And I'm very, very proud of what I did. And you can actually find my walkthrough on this channel. Just go to the playlist and find the Max Payne walkthrough. If you would watch through the whole thing, leave a like. Comment on each of the video. Also, leave a like for this one. Leave a comment as well. Did you play Max Payne? What did you think? What did you think of the nightmare missions? What did you think of the plot? Anything you have to say about it? Did you like the game? Did you not like it? Why or why not? I'm always curious to know what you have to say. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all very, very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think of the original Max Payne. And let me know everything in the comments. And of course, if you would please check out my Max Payne walkthrough. It would certainly be appreciated. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button for this channel, because I want to be sure that you're not going to miss out on any exciting upcoming content. Thank you very, very much. Have a good one, and God bless.